And now, your official TigerBait postgame show with Mike Scarborough and Preston Guy starts now.
All right, everybody, welcome in. LSU takes care of business 37-17. Preston is in his neighborhood, and I wasn't going to wait any longer, so he's going to pop in when he can, and probably within the next 4 to 5 minutes. But anyways, LSU takes care of business tonight, finishes the season 8-4. Was this the most complete performance of an LSU football team? Probably. And what more can you say about Garrett Nussmeier, Aaron Anderson, a lot of defense performers that performed very well on the night, and Brian Kelly with a comment that's gone viral, and he says he's been keeping receipts and he'll see us all in the national championship game. So me and Garland Gillian with Fox 8 New Orleans were immediately elbowing each other in the back of the room, saying, well, when is that? Is someone going to ask him when that's going to be? And you guessed it, it was Glenn Guilbeau that asked the question. And BK got his way out of that one. But very interesting comment. Obviously, that tells you that the scrutiny, the analysis, the YouTube shows like this one, the message boards, tweets on X, on and on, ESPN, whoever. 8-4 is not going to get it done in LSU, and I think he knows that. You know, look, one of the things he pointed to was the fact that once he gets all the freshmen and all the midterm grads, that he's going to have between redshirt freshmen and freshmen 36 or so newcomers. Well, I'm immediately thinking, well, all that does is set the stage for him to say that we're young next year. And so, look, obviously the next couple of weeks are going to be vital for the future of this LSU football program, regardless of what bowl game LSU gets slotted in. The transfer portal is going to be absolutely huge. I think they're going to hold on to the rest of their recruiting class, the high school signees. Of course, signing day is next week. And but the transfer portal is going to be huge. He also alluded to the fact that he thinks some of LSU's key draft eligible guys haven't released it yet, but he thinks that a lot of them are going to be coming back. So we can talk about who that might be and who are the key guys. I mean, I immediately think if Emory Jones and Mason Taylor comes back, that's huge. Certainly Garrett Nussmeier is huge. And what a night he had. Getting knocked out, looked like he might have had a severe shoulder injury. And let me ask you this. Is that a type of hit and where you thought he was done and probably might have even done for the rest of the season and not be able to play in the bowl? But is it, could we be looking back on that a year from now saying, you know what, that was a very similar situation to the way Joe Burrow finished the 2018 season, and which led to the vicious hit he took against Central Florida in the Fiesta Bowl. You know, could there be some parallels there that we're talking about next year? So, I think, look, there was a little bit of everything in tonight's game, but we're going to hit that more. Preston, give us your thoughts. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hoping y'all
Go
can
ahead,
hear
give
me
us your
good.
thoughts on the night.
Man, you know, my first and foremost thought is what a gritty performance by Nussmeier. And I'm not just talking about his, you know, another 300-yard passing game or whatever, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, right? What impresses me more is the fact that, by the way, Oklahoma has a good defense. We're talking about a defense that limited Alabama to 3 points last week. And Nussmeier goes out there, takes a big old hit to his shoulder, goes into the locker room, gets a cortisone shot, and what does he do? He comes out and lights it up. And the things I like about performances like this so much more than what shows up on the stat sheet is the grittiness, the desire to do what it takes to lead your team to a victory. And he did it with his legs at times, and you know he doesn't like to use his legs. So that's the biggest thing that stands out for me. And of course, LSU gets a win, and you know, all of a sudden there's an argument, LSU maybe goes to a bowl game and has a chance to rip off 3 straight to end the season and a chance to bring its quarterback back. All of a sudden things look pretty doom and gloom 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden you've got a chance to paint a positive picture for LSU, don't you?
Yeah. Look, look, when you look at the state of college football and Michigan beating Ohio State and Texas A&M and Syracuse beating Miami and many others, college football is in a transition stage. I mean, we talk about it every week. There's no real dominant team where, if you any other year, if you looked at the rankings and you saw Texas and Texas A&M, and if Texas was a legit top 3 football team, like they're ranked, they beat a Texas A&M team with that kind of ranking by more than 14 points or 10 points on the road. Georgia doesn't have to go to 7 overtimes, to beat Georgia Tech. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are just not deep. I keep saying it over and over again. These top 10 teams couldn't hold a candle to the top 10 teams 10, 15 years ago. They're not the same.
I agree. Well, and I think you hit it on the nail on the head. It's the depth. It is. Do you think Georgia's second string can still beat, a bottom tier Power 4 team? 10 years ago, I was fairly confident Bama's third string could go out there and win some good football games. Okay. But I think the depth of teams across the country has taken a big hit. I think that.
Yeah. I mean, is it, you say, 60 is the new 50 and, is a 10-2 season the equivalent of 11-1 or 12-0 a decade ago? I mean, how many going forward are you going to get back to having national champions? How many? What's the likelihood of undefeated national champions in the next decade?
Let's put it like this, Mike. You just asked if
what's the over and under on that?
You just asked if 10-2 is the new 11-1. What record did you used to have to compete for the national championship? 11-1, right? Right.
Yeah, or undefeated.
What's your record you now have to compete for the national championship? 10-2? I think that's your answer.
Well,
or 9-3 with some luck, just like LSU at 10-2 with some luck. Technically, that was 11-2 because they won the SEC. But again, I think that's the exception to the rule.
I think you're going to see a slew of upper echelon SEC teams in the coming years, and even SEC champions with 2 SEC losses.
It'll be interesting. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. I get I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, but I'm just going to tell you that there's no divisions in the SEC anymore, and it's 16 teams. So counteracting the lack of depth and all that is going on, the league restructuring also makes that a little more difficult. I think this year will be.
And I'm not trying to paint a picture to make LSU's 8-4 look better by any stretch either.
Oh yeah, no.
All right, let's dive into the comments. We've got a lot of people that have been patient with us. Keetrick Miller, a 1 touchdown lead at half, should have been at least 17. Count the money. Nuss came out of the injury looking like a 28 following. What did I say? That's what I said right before.
Yeah. I tweeted a meme out there of that, and I was like, "Is this grossly irresponsible?" Of course it is. But
so I wasn't the only one saying that we could
same energy.
Now, might there be a parallel there?
Wait, can we take a second to digest that? Do you think it's possible that we see that second year bump out of Nussmeier? I'm not going to call it the Burrow bump, but I mean, there's been 3 quarterbacks to do it
I'll say this,
in the last 15 years.
I'll say this: LSU needs an absolute true number 2 quarterback, and I think, and for LSU to move it to the next level, Nussmeier is going to need to use his legs more. It's something that he can do. It needs to be a part of his game. I'm not a big believer of winning big things with a quarterback that cannot hurt defenses with their legs when needed. All All right, Fizzbuzz, when BK says he's taking receipts to see the national championship, I totally agree with him, but I really wish he wouldn't said that. He's just giving people ammo. Yeah. Well, Andy, I know you agree with him. You had LSU at 11-1 a month or so ago, but yeah, Preston froze up and now he's back.
I'm sorry about that. My computer just froze up. It was the internet died on me.
Yeah. And I'm giving Fizzbuzz a little elbow. I'm kidding with him, but it's
you know what was
yeah,
funny?
I mean, it was when he said that, I'm like, oh boy, that's his we're coming.
I know. Well, it's funny. It's like they're saying the same thing, but it's just funny how the two coaches say it so completely differently.
Well, look, man, if that stuff is motivating him and he's feeling slighted and well, that's fine. And all I'd like to know if I'm personally in any of those receipts that he's got in his drawer. But
yeah, I hope LSU makes like a hype video down the road as they're like preparing for the national championship or something, and your quotes are on there like 15 times about how this team stinks and they're not good.
Look, here's the thing.
That'd be great.
And look, it's not a like trying to get one over on BK, but look, man, when you say stuff like that, and you said last week we're going to be highly aggressive in the portal, those are all receipts as well that can come back to bite you.
Sure. But here's the deal. If those receipts come back to bite him, I mean, what's his future look like?
Yeah. And
he ain't gonna care.
Did you hear when he talked about the number of redshirt freshmen and freshmen he's going to be working with an off-season program? And how he's excited about that?
Was that tonight?
Yeah. He said, what did he say? 36, 37 players.
I didn't get to listen to the full thing yet. Of course, I was doing Brent Venables tonight. So
that sets the stage for the excuse of we're young at the end of next season. Right?
It does. Yeah. I mean, look, man, I talked about this a couple weeks ago about how there's going to be a lot of pressure on BK to perform next season. I don't think just because his job is secured that until 2026, I don't think that that's going to mean he's going to take it easy, guys. I think that Brian Kelly really does realize he's got to make the playoffs next year or he will lose even more fan support. Okay. And it'll be hard to come back from that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the wording of that.
Well, clean it up as you see fit. But
yeah, losing fan support. What does that mean?
Well, I think losing it's exactly what it means. It means that fans will start to stop believing in him, and I believe that could mean I'm not going to say will. Could mean donors.
Fizzbuzz is one of the guys who's going to think they're going 11-1 next year.
Yeah, it's too early for that. One thing I was telling Mike in the press box tonight is, look, guys, I really don't want to talk about next year until I see what the roster looks like. And I know we've gotten worked up on this show a few times, but I think that's a perfectly fair comment. Let's see what the roster looks like, because as we've seen the last 5 years, these rosters.
I get that, Preston, but what I see of the reason why you want us to do that and what I see from my peers in the media here locally is because they want to spin a cow patty and a gold strand most of the time.
I just want to be patient. I don't think there's some things I like about the roster next year. I like that you're bringing back a 4,000-yard passer. I mean, that's a pretty big nugget. If Nussmeier enters the portal, and you know how they rank their portal quarterbacks, where does he rank? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's some things I like, but yeah, there's some things that are concerning. All of a sudden with Chris Helton, with his performance, if you happen to be able to hold on to him and he doesn't enter the portal, your core doesn't look nearly as bad as what we were thinking.
Right. He got the game ball tonight.
I mean, all of a sudden the argument that he was hurt and rusty and needed some time to come back, that gets some serious validity tonight. So that's kind of why I'm like,
but Preston, what have we been hearing for the last 6 weeks was that Hilton was absolutely going in the portal and he's done.
Sure.
Does this change his mind? Does giving him the game ball change his mind? How much work do they have to do to convince him to stick around?
A lot.
Or has that already been done? Maybe it's already been done and he is coming back.
Could be.
I know Harold Perkins is one of the guys that's going to be the ones that's coming back.
Yep. Well, then it's like if Perkins come back, will he even be a factor?
Yeah. But here's what I was getting about. I'm not trying to be the portal is absolutely vital if LSU is going to. I don't think this program is set for LSU to be a playoff team next year. I think it's in 26, possibly. Probably, I would say. But if they're going to make a move and get there next year, it has to be a couple of more than a handful of home runs and triples at key positions on the football team. You can say a number one wide receiver. You can say a center. You could say another corner. A number two quarterback, maybe. You got to get a quarterback. You lost one. How do you handle that?
A backup quarterback. And look, I don't
if Jason Taylor doesn't come back, you need a tight end, at least one. You
got to get someone. I mean, what AJ Schwann showed you tonight, I don't know that LSU wins this game if Nussmeier doesn't come back in. He showed me absolutely nothing, and he missed some open Mason Taylors tonight. I mean, that was petrifying, and I don't know why Ricky Collins isn't going in the game, but what AJ Schwann showed you tonight is what all the media told you we saw in practice. It's what we saw in the spring game. It's not great. It doesn't look like an LSU quarterback. And maybe he develops and proves me wrong one day, but I would like to see more than what we've seen out of LSU's backup quarterback this year. Is that Colin Hurley? Is that a guy in the portal? It's not Bryce Underwood. I'll tell you that much. But
what I want to see in the next 3 weeks, and I talked about it on TigerBait Live with Buddy the other night, is, I mean, right now, what is the confidence level of the fan base when it comes to LSU's ability to get a Walter Nolan type of kid at multiple positions, where they're going to be going up against the upper echelon schools that have NIL money? Because right now, LSU hasn't shown that they can win those NIL battles. Are they finally going to break through? What we've seen in the last week is they're not there.
All right, but Mike, hear me out.
And I'll take Underwood out of it.
Hear me out.
Didn't even pursue Walter Nolan last year.
Hear me out. For a rational,
you went to Grand Valley State last year to get a kid in the spring.
For a rational based perspective on that conversation, couldn't it be reasonable to presume that LSU doesn't repeat what it did last year in the portal, where it wasn't a strong class at all, but goes more to what it did in 2022 and 2023, where they pulled a plethora of good players? Isn't that a reasonable presumption that they'll probably be more similar to what they were doing?
I'm not following you.
So in 2022, it was a pretty strong portal class.
I'm telling you, Preston, they have to have kids that are top 10.
Right.
I mean, they've got to be in the hunt there, and they've got to win those. They've got to win more than their share there.
So you're saying it needs to be more quality, less quantity, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, because you've got quantity with your high school and your current roster.
Yeah. I don't know. My presumption is that to build the roster the way they did the first 2 years here, they had to go out and invest some resources into some kids. Maybe you get the highest of the. I mean, Jake Daniels was probably a pretty solid investment. He wasn't the number one portal quarterback, but he certainly was valued. But I assumed that they would invest similar type resources and maybe go for less numbers but higher quality. That's kind of where I put this conversation.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. I'll hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Please do that. And all right. Jeremy, Franks, Mike, and Preston, can we say we beat Vanderbilt in Oklahoma and Vanderbilt couldn't? Absolutely. And of course, look, we're thankful that we're brought all these post games now for years, brought to by our good friend Kenny Haines. And let's hear from Kenny.
Kenny Haines is a proud 1989 graduate of LSU Law School with a passion for justice. Kenny stands out as the only lawyer in the state, board certified in both appellate practice and family law. Drawing from 34 years of trial experience, Kenny has navigated the most complex aspects of real people's lives. If you need help in Northwest Louisiana with a family issue, legal issue, or a highly skilled trial attorney, call Kenny 318-222-2100.
All right. Of course, Kenny is the unofficial official lawyer of TigerBait.com, and he reserves the right to think most clearly for a paying client. And we thank him for sponsoring us each and every week. And it's Tiger Shark on our Tiger Den message board and one of our absolute pinnacle posters there.
Let me put one up here.
Blaine Smith. Is that the one you're going to get?
No, get him. Go ahead and get him. I'll get one next.
I don't get responses from any podcast. I'm asking, what is LSU doing to bring in big-time boosters or donors need to complete? I think Austin Thomas, everything I gather, he's doing a bang-up job doing that. And look, just because one of them doesn't own a chicken franchise, or he doesn't own this restaurant, or he's this not that, there's some heavy-hitting donors out there that you'll never know their names.
Sure. And they probably pay money to keep it that way.
In fact, I was told there's one guy out there that's bigger than everybody, and I had never heard his name till last week, that he's the number one guy.
Can I touch on this real quick? So there, in addition to that, Austin Thomas doing the job he's doing, LSU also restructured their NIL collective, the Bayou Traditions Collective, to work in conjunction with TAF before the season. And my understanding is that they're going to try to do things where like rewards points for Bayou Tradition donors are done similarly to TAF, right? So I even talked to Brian Kelly about this before the season. I asked him straight up. I said, "Hey, Brian, what's more important to you, a donor dollar to the NIL collective or TAF at this point to you?" And basically his answer was, well, the way we're trying to look at this in the future is we want to put those as being one and the same. So I think that's kind of LSU's long-term vision. He did also mention about court battles, legal battles with that, but he says that that's where they see it going. So that's the best we can touch on. Here's a comment. Dude, ain't no way we lived through 2000 and 2018 and we were actually saying, that's not an LSU quarterback. You know, Tiger Grunt, thank you for the comment. Let me tell you, though, since 2000, LSU's had 3 top 2 picks at quarterback. Jamarcus Russell, we've had 2 Heisman winners that we've seen. We saw Matt Mock win a national championship, Matt Flynn win a national championship. Look, I know what the stretch of 2008
but you've also had some Andrew Hatches and Brandon Harris.
Sure, and Anthony Jennings. I get that the stretch was what it was post Flynn. It was rough. It was awful. And I remember every year we said, man, they're just a quarterback away. Guys, I look, man, when I say LSU quarterback, I'm not so sure that I'm being nice about it is what I'm telling you. Is like, I'm not so sure that we're seeing the quality of play you need to see out of a backup SEC quarterback. I'm just not, I try not to bash kids and be too disrespectful, but I just haven't seen it yet out of LSU's backup quarterback this year. So I think they need to improve on that. And if you don't think LSU needs to improve in their backup quarterback position, I don't really know what your expectations are. I mean, how low can you set the bar? So appreciate your comment, Tiger Grunt. Maybe try getting your own podcast with takes like that. See if people listen.
Shelton Sampson and Caleb Jackson will probably. I think Sampson is real probability. I would hate to see Caleb Jackson leave, but I would also understand it. I look. There's a reason to be excited about JT Lindsey and Harlem Berry. Williams is gone. Durham's back. Barry's an undersized guy that you can line up in the slot, do some. He can play a little wide receiver. I'd like to see Caleb Jackson get down to 215, 220, not 235. I just don't like the idea of losing a 6'1", 215 to 220 pound power back that can run a 10, 500 meters. And
I'll say this, if you do your portal watch, guys, those are probably your first 2 names on the list.
A few weeks ago, I would have said Chris Hilton.
Yeah. Well, tonight helps him in a big way.
Well, he could also be, using that and saying, "Oh yeah, you want me now? I'm out of here." But look, I don't know what's going through his head or what the conversations are like, but I know early in the season, midway through the season, things were not good. From what everything I've gathered.
Well, Mike, let me ask you this. We've talked a lot about LSU needing to go to the portal to get a receiver. hypothetically, okay, if you've got Hilton, CJ Daniels returning, which they've pretty much announced that's a thing, and you've got Aaron Anderson returning. How do you feel about that? And look, here's a great comment in time with that Anderson returning Cooks. How do you feel about LSU's receiving core after being so? I mean, you've been blunt about it not being good enough this year. Do you feel better if those three guys are back?
No, because Chris Hilton still hasn't. If Chris Hilton does come back, he still hasn't proven that he can ever stay healthy long enough.
That's a good point. I think at that point you still need
there's a consistency problem here. It's always been, if you get anything out of Chris Hilton, it's Lanyap.
Got your Lanyap tonight.
Yeah. You got it tonight. But I wouldn't stake my whole upcoming season on him being my only deep threat guy. Because right now with what you've got returning, you don't have that. That's why you've got to go to the portal and get you one. There's a reason to be excited about the upcoming enrollees, the true freshmen, but they're true freshmen. Very excited about JT Lindsay and Harlan Berry. But Frank Wilson's running back rotation tempers that, doesn't it?
Caden Durham had 7.3 yards per carry tonight, and he had 11 attempts.
Yeah, how many attempts did Josh Williams have?
13 for 31.
Uh-huh.
Not nuts over that. It's almost like when a running back gets the hot hand, you get the Frank yank. Get on out of there. It's like, what are we doing here? And also in short yardage, they continue to go with Josh Williams as the back. And clearly they see something in him where he's the best short yardage back. And I just don't know.
Pickett on campus. I think that's solid and locked in. Jakeem Stewart, look, there was a lot of scuttlebutt today that he was coming. I can tell you from my sources that he was on the list to be there today. I think the staff was expecting him to come based on conversations, and then he did not show. So everything from what we're gathering out of New Orleans is that he's gone, and he's going to be a USC Trojan unless something magical is pulled out here between now and signing day. Look, do I think he's going to be a guaranteed all-conference player? No, there's no guarantee. Do I think he's got a lot of tools? Absolutely. Do I think he's worth $2.5 million or whatever is being put going to be spent? I think that's very risky. And then the last part is it a PR hit? Another Louisiana kid getting away? Chris Senac in basketball last week. Of course, he spent the last season in Branson, Missouri, but he's a New Orleans kid going to Houston. My point is that, you can slice and dice some of the LSU needs to win some of these.
Yeah.
There's a PR part of this, right? Or it's not PR. It's a perception.
How many times are you going to sit here and say, well, good on Brian Kelly for not overpaying for an unproven kid. $12 million for Bryce Underwood. Man, for a 17-year-old quarterback, you're wasting. It's not like LSU's rolling out there, and it's a Saban talent level roster out there. The roster needs talent. You can't go out there and sell discount players in the portal and tell us they're doing a good job managing their money and being efficient. Look how talented the roster is, and then you see what you got this year. Eventually you got to start complaining and be like, man, can we win one of these NIL battles? You can't get a defensive tackle in the portal. Well, they were being efficient. They're not going to pay $1 million for Simeon Barrow. You miss out on Bryce Underwood. Well, we're not going to pay that much money for him. How many times are you going to say this story of, well, they're not overpaying, good on them, and then you roll out with a roster that doesn't have nearly enough talent, and you go 8-4. At a certain point, Stop the excuses. Go out and be the bidder who wins. Go get the best player. Anyways.
Yep. All right. Here we go.
Drive-in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GB70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive owner incentive, plus finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
That's it. Genesis of Lafayette, Blake Mesh, Salesman of the Year. Jaron Guidry is the sales manager at Genesis of Lafayette. Both of them huge LSU fans. They sell more Genesis vehicles than any other Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. Beautiful showroom, Johnson Street in Lafayette. Do your business with them. I'm telling you, they're going to make it worth your while, regardless of where you live in the state. Even if you're in Houston, I'm telling you, they're going to beat the socks off anybody else on their price. There's no haggling. And if there's something specific you want, they'll go halfway across the country to get it for you. If it's the right color, interior, whatever. Call them, set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them that TigerBait sent you in. All right. You see some comments you want to put up, Preston?
I see a good one, and I talked to you about this actually after the show. I have an interesting little nugget I'm going to tease on this. Palermo Trapani, Jacoby Matthews is taking classes at Southeastern in Hammond right now. He sat out this year. Guys, after the game, Jacoby Matthews, I haven't seen a tweet from him in a while. He tweeted out, wait till I get to that secondary next year. And he didn't say LSU's, but it'll be a lot different. I retweeted that. And you know what he did? He immediately followed me back. Immediately. And that stood out to me because during the whole recruiting process, he gave me the cold shoulder and gave a lot of recruiters for LSU the cold shoulder. So
I'll tell you this: when he left Texas A&M, and then when it got to August, and he didn't land anywhere it's like, what's going on with him? And the first thing I thought was, for him not to have arrived somewhere and when he got in the portal, that told me that he must have, mailed it in his last semester or got an incomplete or didn't do something, that he had to have been not academically eligible. And so when you said that he had tweeted you when we were driving home, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I've been wondering where he was at because there was rumors that he was maybe at a community college in Mississippi or somewhere. So the fact that Palermo says he's at SOU, that tells me he's been needing to get the right hours in order to be eligible to play. So we're going to see where he winds up. I'm sure Frank's been in on that one, but man, LSU's got some young safety room right now. So, and I also wonder what the size of Jacoby is right now. He's a bit older now, and as he turned himself into a linebacker, he was already a big kid. So you see anything else you want to put up?
James Wade, who comments on the show a lot with actually some pretty insightful comments over the years, I've noticed. Tackling and effort by LSU safeties this season was subpar. And I'm going to hone in specifically on that tackling. Didn't I tell you in the press box? I remember looking at a tackle by Jordan Gilbert. And I was like, okay, I'm glad he made the tackle, but he threw a shoulder. And little things like that matter. Because if you keep on throwing a shoulder to knock a quarterback to the ground, eventually one of them is just going to bounce right off you. So, yeah, I agree that discipline needs to be improved quite a bit. We saw Sage Ryan also drop a pick tonight. Would have been an acrobatic grab, but I hope that safety room shows some improvement next year.
Elmo Domain with a super chat. Thank you, Elmo. Why did it take 11 games to throw bubble screens? Kelly has more excuses. He must get in the playoffs next year. I can see a buyout in the future. Those bubble screens, the timing of those is always just off, isn't it? I mean, really, how many LSU offenses this century has really done the bubble screen game like you see a lot of other schools run them? It never seems like LSU, whether it's middle screens or delayed handoffs, there's just a lot of things in LSU's offense that a lot of other schools do that LSU just cannot ever seem to get right. but Nussmeier did a lot of good things tonight. I mean, what was it when he came back after getting knocked out? LSU scored on 4 straight possessions. Is that correct?
I do know this. LSU, when he came back into the game, ended the game on a 27-7 run. So yeah, I mean, definitely was a good stretch. Let's see. All right, he comes back in the game. Touchdown, field goal, punt, field goal. So 4 out of 5.
Yep. Yeah, Andy, that was one of the fews. LSU is incredible in 19. That's what I'm saying. How many quarterbacks and offenses in this century? You're giving me one.
I can name a lot that were bad at them.
2019 did everything right. Todd Davis with a super chat. Thank you. Is the Edge decommit a huge loss? Did you see it coming? I don't like losing those guys.
He's talking about Jesse Harold for the record, in case you weren't following that.
I don't like seeing that. I did not see that coming. And it happened on Thanksgiving. And when I saw it, I'm like, you know what? I don't even know that I made a post about it. I just marked him as a decommit and I was done. These kids that like to do things on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Who was the kid from California that ended up at Alabama that LSU made toast of, the corner? Ricks.
Eli Ricks, yeah. How about Dominic McKinley on New Year's Eve at midnight?
Eli Ricks announced his commitment at 2:00 on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And guess who was ringing the doorbell at my house on Christmas Day at 2:00? My now deceased mom and my sister. You know, hey kids, get it done. Get it done at a different time, will you? Have some respect for people.
Did you see the other super chat?
Of course, decommit, you can do it at 2 a.m. Who cares?
Yeah. Decommits are a lot less stressed than a commit, that's for sure. Julian counts. Nuss at QB1 next year, or do we hit the portal? First off, thank you for the super chat, Julian. Appreciate it. Absolutely, they hit the portal if Nuss goes pro, right? I mean, there's no way LSU doesn't go out and try to bid on the best quarterback it can get if Nuss goes pro, right?
You have to hit the portal anyways.
For the heir apparent, right? You could go out and get a young guy. Think like maybe, say like, I don't want to throw a name out there, but a guy who you could see being developed, like what Ohio State did with Julian Sayin this offseason, where it's like, you're not the guy, but come on in and we'll see if we can develop you. And next year you can.
No, it needs to be a guy that where you're thinking if Nussmeier gets hurt,
right,
we can still win the number of games we're supposed to win with this guy.
Interesting.
You don't do it like you did last year, where you're getting a guy because you're not going to go above a certain talent level because you don't want to scare Nussmeier off.
Right. You need a better.
This year you can't do. This year you can't do that.
You need a better backup quarterback next year.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
But that, I mean, again, it's fair to say that if Nussmeier goes, they will be even more aggressive than that. Correct?
Dr. Butler, man, congrats. You had 2 wins this today. Your Longhorns and LSU. My understanding is that the Tigers played the best game of the season. I record, and I have not seen it. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was probably their best performance. What's funny is if you think about 2019, wouldn't you say LSU's best performance of the entire season and playoffs was Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah. Texas A&M was – look, man, that stretch, the last 4 games of that season was just so incredible. I don't know that I've seen any team in college football history have a 4-game stretch like LSU had, where 50-7 Oklahoma, Texas A&M, 35-10 over Georgia, or 38-10 over Georgia, 63-28 OU, and then 42-25. I mean, that was just an insanely dominant stretch.
Yep.
Good times.
I don't like the LSU's chances with Jakeem. Solomon Thomas, I do. Hopefully to have more on Solomon Thomas, but I have a feeling that one could be a quick we might have some quick news on that, to be honest with you.
It's not much time.
No.
You got what, 3 days? 4 days, whatever it
I'm
is.
telling you, it's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to be a very interesting several weeks. But I'm not seeing y'all guys give us some comments. Your thoughts on BK saying he's keeping receipts of everybody who's slinging mud and being negative about this team in the future, and how far. What do you think he dislikes more? The fact that people are questioning or suggesting this team is more than a few years away from competing for SEC and national championships, or what do you think sticks in his craw more?
Well, that or what? What
do you think bothers him the most? People writing his program off.
I think it's just the general disrespect as a whole. I think it's finally starting to rub him the wrong way, and he's wanting to push back a little bit on it because he sees it.
You know how you push back? You don't win your openers 3 straight years as the head coach.
There you go. I got a couple good ones here. I'm gonna throw a few up here. Carvis with his weekly Aaron Anderson plug.
You know what? I've been saying he's the MVP of the team, or you can give him MVP of the offense. I mean, who would you give MVP of the defense now? I used to say it was Swinson. Maybe I give it to Weeks.
Yeah, Weeks. Did you see the night he had?
But I'm telling you right now, the overall MVP is Aaron Anderson. I think he's LSU's best player. Period.
I spit out my beer when Swan overthrew 6'5" Mason Taylor by 8 years, and that's what I'm getting at. I mean, that stuff, the only other quarterback I could think who would consistently miss throws that badly is maybe Anthony Jennings. That's right. And look, it'd be one thing if this was his first time I've ever seen him in an LSU uniform and he just, it was just that sample size. We saw it in practice. We saw it in the spring game. That's all we've seen out of AJ Swan is that kind of stuff. So,
by the way, if Lacey was consistent all season long and Chris Hilton tonight was like that all season long and healthy, and Aaron Anderson was what he is, then the tune that's being sung about the wide receiver room this year would have been a totally different tune. Right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hey, BK, if you don't win that Clemson opener next year, you're going to get more smoke than Dennis Allen ever got in New Orleans. Well, Dennis Allen got smoked out of town. So, I don't know. Yeah, no, things are going to be hot.
Here's the thing. Don't lose the opener and then look shocked about how that this isn't who I thought they were. Right?
Right.
You can't have that. You can't come out of the opener always looking like you had one less week of preparation than the opponent. And that's how they've looked.
Man, look, I don't know at what point they just decide, hey, this coach struggles to get his teams ready for openers at LSU so far. We got to give him a warm-up game. We got to give him a week 0. Why not move Southeastern to week 0?
Yeah,
I don't know.
My buddy Moo in Lafayette said that. You know that Clemson's not the opener. That the Southeastern is getting moved a week. I don't know where that went. Was that out there somewhere? Was someone suggesting
I didn't
that?
See that.
Yeah, hasn't happened. That's you're going to Clemson.
I think that's an administrative failure. I think part of being a successful organization that's ran well is you have to look at the strengths and weaknesses of your team. And I think that at this point you have to define that as a weakness and you have to mitigate that weakness.
Yep.
And it is what it is.
All right. Let's see. Fire 349, hit that like button. Thank you, Fire. He's always helping us with that. And
he had a good comment. Let's put it up here. Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead. You read it.
Mike with Tank Guillory coming back in the freshman.
Saw him tonight. He came out of the locker room. He had a boot on one of his. He still had his foot in a boot.
How many
Ankle.
more DTs do we need from the portal? He wants to know. First off, is Jacoby Hillary going to be at the same shape he was 9 months ago? Or
He
3
didn't
months
look bad. He was in street clothes. He didn't look bad. My fear was that he was going to, look, man, when you're a guy his size and you've had surgery and your inability to do lower body work, my fear was he was going to balloon up to 360. He didn't. He looked fine to me.
Yeah.
So, but look, Tank Guillory's not a guy that most years that is your number one guy. So, do they go out and get another defensive tackle or two in the portal? Maybe. I like what I saw from Dominic McKinley later in the game tonight. I think that room has a chance. But if there's a tackle and an edge guy or an end that's out there or two, I in the portal, I don't think there's a position on this football team that doesn't need portal help. And some of them, it's not just portal help as in depth. Many of them you can say needs bona fide starters. Because the talent that's your future talent is super young.
Based on who's on your roster, you're bringing in 3 defensive tackles in your recruiting class, right? Including some pretty good, no 5-star guys or nationally merited guys out there, but solid players. On your roster, if you're looking at it right now, you got Ahmad Bro, who's giving you some serviceable reps as a freshman. You got Jacoby Guillory, should be back for another year. JVR Suggs, he's got more eligibility. You've got Sean Washington, Dominic McKinley, 5-star guy right there. So your numbers at DT isn't the problem. It's just whether or not you want to add, higher quality player there.
Did we get that one already?
What, the super chat? Yeah. No. This is new.
Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, we should talk about BK's last 2 pressers. His attitude has changed only because I think he's feeling the heat. Got to hit that 25 class and portal. Thoughts? I'll start with the latter because that's easy.
That's what we've been saying all night.
No shit. You got to get this class together. You got to add some more guys to it and retain what you've got. And look, man, last couple weeks have been rough. You lost your crown gem. You lost an edge rusher. You probably got more losses coming, by the way, because Derek Meadows is still technically one of the guys on the board.
Well,
here.
I'm not counting him. He's gone. I'm not.
But I'm just telling you. That's news that we're expecting.
Whether he or not, if he comes, fine. They still, even if he comes, the LSU needs a couple of wide receivers in the portal.
And look, even if he does come, his stock dropped a lot this year. He didn't put out the kind of film people were looking for.
I'll take a 3-star wide receiver from South Louisiana over a high 4
from
Las Vegas, Nevada every day. Yeah.
But in terms of his last 2 pressers, he's responding to the highest levels of criticism he's had here. So,
yeah,
I like
again. Here's the thing: we talked about the portal, DeCorian Moore. What are we saying? They're going to be aggressive in the portal. Well, why weren't you aggressive with DeCorian Moore? See, my thing is like that's just recent. That kid hadn't signed yet.
Yeah,
he was here a couple of weeks ago. You couldn't seal the deal then for him dollar wise, but you're gonna win more than your share in the transfer portal with dollars.
I wonder if it was a little.
We've seen nothing to make us believe that they're going to do that.
But Mike, what game did he come here to watch? 42-13. I think there was a little more than just the money.
I don't believe that. I don't think it had anything to do with that. It was all money. That kid's always been all money.
I guess so. Got another super chat. Jason Morgan. Feeling about the O-line next year, losing the majority. Mubinga has gotten whooped since taking over for Dellinger. And look, me and Mike were talking about DJ Chester at center. You might be looking for a portal center next year because he got wrecked on that what was that? The fumble from Nussmeier gave up a touchdown to OU, making it a 7-7 ball game. You can't have reps like that. You cannot afford that. It was a one-on-one play, by the way. And yeah, they stacked 3 linemen off to the right side. Look, you had 1-1-1. You didn't have crazy stuff to take over. It wasn't a hook block either, where he had to go and get a guy who's 2 feet to his right and hook him to the other side. It was an easy block to make, and he just got blown up. Yeah, I think O-line is going to be huge, especially if you lose Emory Jones. You're probably losing Will Campbell. Who knows? I mean, with the guard situation, I mean, look, there is a remote possibility that you need to find 5 new starters next year. I'm just saying. Am I off with that, Mike?
Hey, Mike, pick me up a carrot cake and chicken and waffles, please. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I was totally caught off guard or wasn't paying attention. LSU's women's basketball's got a 2 p.m. game tomorrow, which against North Carolina Central. And that will be Kim Mulkey's 1,000 win. So it's going to be that's a special part of that game tomorrow. But I don't think I'm going to make it to Capital City Grill, and because of that, you just gave me our segue. And Capital City Grill brunch tomorrow. In fact, you know what? I'm going to try and get over there tomorrow. Located at 100 Lafayette Street, downtown Baton Rouge. Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for your casual dining experience. Wide variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pasta, everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Tomorrow from 11 to 2, one of the best brunches around. Go over to capitalcitygrill.net. Check out their menu. And the chicken and waffles is superb. They've got the eggs Benedict that you see there. If you want a French dip sandwich, cheeseburger, they've got it all. Again, that carrot cake is to die for at Capital City Grill. All right, let's get some more comments here. American Patriot, BK's presser was ridiculous. He seemed bitter. No, look, you can take it that way, but I think you can also spin it and say, you know what, it's good that he's, doesn't like me or anybody in the Baton Rouge market or nationally questioning his resolve or questioning his dedication or questioning the direction of his program. Stuff like that's very motivating. Not saying that you do it on purpose, but that to me, that fire, certainly people might mock it, but that fire, you're not going to deny that it's not there. We'll see how it gets, what happens. Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of people just think he's collecting paychecks and that he doesn't care and that he's phoning it in. I don't believe that. Carvis Durr says the offensive line will be fine.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I mean, Mike, do you agree with me that it's a remote possibility they may have to replace 5 starters?
I think Emory Jones is coming back, man. I tell you what would be huge if Mason Taylor does come back. I don't know why. I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
there's some people out there that believe it is, but if that's one of the ones that he's pointing to coming back, that would be huge.
Let me.
You can't. He's out of this world.
All right. What's the one reason you hear from every high draft pick guy who chooses to come back to school for another year? What's the one time you hear? I want to win a national championship, right? That's what they all say. So to me, if you want Mason Taylor to come back, you got to put together an argument that you're going to do something special next year, because I don't see his draft stock going up. How much game film do you need before
Preston? That's part of the reason why I've suggested that Nuss. You can make the argument that Nussmeier can make that same argument.
that something
coming
special is
back
going to
for
happen?
a whole new offensive line, a wide receiver core that has some questions. Mason Taylor's gone to the NFL. And it's a weak draft for quarterbacks. And whereas next year, what does it look like? Do I hurt myself or help myself? Does he also another year putting himself in harm's way in possible injury with a work in progress offensive line?
Well, let me throw it to you like this.
I mean, if you're a second round draft pick now, are you any better next year with the tools that's going to with what's in front of him?
Well, he can certainly demonstrate better decision making because a lot of what held him back this year was his own decision making. That being said, his father is probably one of the most qualified men on the planet to help him make this decision. I mean, we're talking about a guy played in the NFL, college coach, was an OC for Saban, he's currently the quarterback coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. I would say he's very qualified to help Garrett make that decision. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Taylor's NFL. Yeah, he is.
That's where I'm at, Jonathan. That's where I'm at. Taylor is and Nuss isn't.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying all season that Taylor's going, but there's been some people trying to suggest that he might come back. I don't.
When you say some people, you talking people in the know,
media.
or fans?
Some media people. Yeah. And by the way, Nuss isn't. I've seen some less qualified quarterbacks go out, and I was shocked by where they were drafted.
I mean, Anthony Richardson.
There's been many.
But here's the deal about Anthony Richardson. That was a pure potential prospect. That was this guy throws the ball how far? This guy runs what's his time? Oh my gosh. Like he was a freak of nature. And they, the Colts took a shot on him, and it's looking like it's not going to pay off, but yeah, it happens, but Nussmeier doesn't have the tool set that Anthony Richardson has. It's not even close. Nussmeier has a lot he needs to clean up, in my opinion.
By the way, on my way out the stadium, Kelly Zinn was walking by. Of course, the number 2 behind Scott Woodward. And I said, "Hey, what's the status of the arena?" And she goes, "We're getting close." So there's a little scoop for you. We're getting close. And I've heard that too, by the way. If you remember when they talked about the new PMAC in June, they said that June would be the date that you would know something, and then it's been quiet ever since. Even though it's been quiet, there's a lot of movement. And I think it's real. And so nobody's backing off. I think they're just getting everything in a row, but a new PMAC, I think there's going to be some news coming. All right, let's see.
Here's one. Poor decision making, poor footwork, holding on to the ball. That's not on the offensive line, Preston. No, Carvis, if I gave you the impression that I'm blaming the offensive line for Nussmeier's woes, I mean, I'm not. Their pass blocking hasn't been abysmal this year. It could be a hell of a lot worse. No, those are on Nussmeier. It's all on Nussmeier. He's done some things well this year. I loved his performance tonight. I liked the grittiness in this game in Ole Miss, and he's done some things well. His deep ball has been bad before tonight. In fact, I can't name another game where he hit 2 deep balls like he did to Chris Hilton tonight. Footwork needs some work. Holding on the ball
been bad a good bit of the time too, because he's had no deep threat most of the season.
Missing open receivers. Oh yeah, there's been a lot of game film.
He overthrows on purpose. He overthrows on purpose, Preston.
What's the theory behind that?
Yeah, if his receiver doesn't have separation, he'll overthrow a deep ball. He's done that many times.
As a throwaway is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like, a lot of times I've seen the receiver open with separation and he overthrows them. And it's like, well, I hope your decision isn't to just intentionally throw it away when he's open. Anyways, I think all these things could show improvement. And by the way, a lot of what you see out of Nussmeier is coachable. It is improvable. It's not like he's got a spaghetti arm out there and, it just isn't very talented. A lot of these can be improved.
American Patriot with Super Chat. I'm extremely proud of Whit Weeks. He is an animal. He played a great game tonight. And it was fun seeing Zach, his younger brother. It was fun seeing the younger brothers of both the Weeks brothers. Zach was there in street clothes following his brother Whit into the locker room, and Nussmeier pushing his little brother.
Yep.
God dang it.
Zach.
Colton
Zach
Nussmeier.
Weeks. Oh, we got Colton Nussmeier.
Colton Nussmeier around, and him, Colton following Garrett into the locker room, in which Colton has got an LSU offer class of 2027, and he's already a couple inches taller than Garrett. So,
I talked to Colton, by the way. He's high on LSU, but that 27 class has a lot of QBs LSU is going to be in on, including Elijah Haven, who I believe was there tonight.
Mm-hmm. And that's exciting because you never won. The excitement is coming. Great arm. Elshaw, do you think Kelly meant the Natty next year? Man, Mike, what is coming in from the portal? Yeah, no, Gilbo asked him, and we were waiting when he said, I'm keeping receipts and we'll see you in the national title. And Glenn said, when is that, next year? And EK got his way out of that one, but we'll see.
We coming. Here's a good question here. Do you see any staff changes incoming? I mean, realistically speaking, I don't think there's ever been a year where LSU didn't have a staff change of some sort. If you want us to solo out guys.
Yeah, I mean, odds are there will be some, but is it because someone's getting a better job, a position coach, or someone maybe going to go to the NFL, a position coach? We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a few names that have been thrown out there a good bit. And we'll have to see. A lot of times coaches are doing evaluations a lot differently than fans are.
Yeah. Scooter Hobbs was the last question asking about, is it you that decides the uniforms? And of course, I was telling Preston before the game, I learned a long time ago, or maybe I've learned recently, if you're over 45 in the media and you go on Twitter and complain about these special game jerseys too often, you're just going to be labeled the old guy who doesn't like change, or you know what I mean?
So do you need me to take this one for you?
I saw Rabelais do it, and everybody's hitting him with the Granddad Simpsons meme, right?
Oh, man. You need me to take this take for you then? Because I'll do it. You call me an old man all you want. All right. I think they're a little too alt uniform happy. I think that you should probably wear your traditionals 8 times a year. It's a staple brand. I don't think alts are the end of the world, and I understand recruits like them and players like them.
How many times should it be? Once a year?
Alts, I think each alt should be shown once a year. Give me the all white once a year. Give me the purple on whites once a year. Give me the what's the purple on yellow once a year. It's not too hard to ask. And then if you want to do one more second time, or you want to bring out a unique alt, there's your 4th. I don't think you have to be crazy with it. You've got a brand.
We've already seen multiple alternative uniforms this season.
Yeah,
and I'm not calling the purple jersey an alternative uniform. I'm talking about multiple games with white helmets.
Yeah, so 9 games a year should be the
point. Is Oklahoma is a storied program that has never played in Tiger Stadium, and LSU's never been in Norman.
Yeah,
and so wear your traditional uniforms because of that. Here. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen is someone who runs a website. All right. During the off season, we're writing stories about this or that, or a transfer, or previews for the upcoming season. More often than not, websites or news outlets are not going to pick the photos from the games where they use alternative uniforms, because that's not the typical uniform. It's now they say recruits like it, or I don't know. To me, it's overdone. They should have worn the traditional uniforms tonight.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. You don't get LSU, Oklahoma all that often. It would have been nice to see that. And by the way, a lot of this gobbledygook about, the seniors picked their outfits. Man, come on. Get out of here.
Here goes. Here comes Paw. Exactly.
Paw. You missed the
Yeah.
super chat, by the way. Does Ricky
millennial Preston agrees with me.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I'm in my mid-30s. I'll take the hit on this. Call me old. I'm a dad.
Mid-30s. What are you, 31?
33. That's mid-30s, my guy.
That's not mid.
It's mid. It's in the it's 2 years off of 35.
Yeah,
I'm there. Look, Mike, did you know that I've been covering LSU for 10 years now?
All right.
10 years, man. I'm getting old. I'm getting up there. Get off my lawn.
All right. When you get to 37, call me.
All
right.
Be there. You got to get this super chat, Mike. Does Ricky Collins hit the portal if Nuss stays?
Jason, you know what I found interesting? When you see all the quarterbacks in between commercial breaks, as particularly when it's cold, throwing the football, trying to stay warm, and they're all out there lined up in the hash marks doing that. You never see Ricky Collins out there throwing the football. I mean, I basically had to look and see if he was even dressed out, and he was there. But I think Ricky Collins made the decision to go months ago.
And that's probably why we didn't see him tonight, because I refuse to believe AJ Swan is better than Ricky Collins.
Yeah, Dr. Butler. I work at a place where they would fire you if you even mentioned change uniforms. Of course, Dr. Butler, LSU grad, works at the University of Texas. So, yeah, you never see them playing around, do you?
Preston Buttons.
I'm trying to remember. Is Texas do any special uniforms once a year?
No, never.
And if they do, or how far off from the originals are they? I bet they're not much.
How many times does Bama roll out in alternate uniforms? How many times does Oklahoma roll?
And by the way, Oregon does a different uniform, every other week? I think I've seen one Oregon uniform in the last 10 years that I thought, okay, now that one's nice.
No, I do disagree with that, but that's Oregon. It's good for Oregon, okay? Conversations change based on who you are, okay? Oregon's brand is no brand, okay? LSU has an iconic look, okay? There's certain teams you just don't see wearing a ton of alts. Michigan, LSU, whatever. Here's to another 10, Preston. Go Irish. That's from Blooms. Thank you for the super chat. Look, man, I'll be here another 10 years. I ain't going anywhere. I got the best job on the planet, even with people like Andy Whitaker calling me mid once a week. It's all good, guys. I'm glad to be here. So here's to another 10.
Yep. Let's see. All right, everybody. Stroubes, all the TigerBait live shows are probably brought to you this football season by Stroubes Seafood and Steaks, 107 3rd Street, downtown Baton Rouge. Stroubes prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price, locally owned with ownership right in the building, taking a high-level pride in the service and food that they provide. And you're just not going to get that from any of the national chains. They offer a full menu of specialty meats, certified Wagyu New York strip, black English steaks, and they got a full seafood section as well. The dried pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and much more. Go to Stroubes.com, check their menu, make your reservation, and please tell them TigerBait sent you in. Stroubes is absolutely fantastic, and I think I'm going to be there later this week for the missus' birthday, but I'm waiting for her to let me know which night she wants to go. So, Flame Cash, will they fire Brian Kelly next year is the question. No, they're not.
Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, what record would he have to get fired next year, Mike? I mean, 3-9. I mean, he would have to. I mean, with that buyout, yeah, no, there's just no way.
I like the UCLA. Well, LSU's uniforms are based on UCLA's. The stripes on the shoulders was barred from UCLA.
You know what another darn shame about the uniforms is the powder blue UCLA's and the white home jerseys for LSU. Those are both iconic college football uniforms. and they chose to go with the same.
As far as
uniforms.
color schemes, I'll always say, there's a debate in the SEC whose uniform's better looking, LSU's or Ole Miss. Ole Miss when they wear the powder blue. And for the LSU fans that live in New Orleans, they're going to hate hearing it, but I've always liked Tulane's color scheme. That green and powder blue can look great too when it's done right.
Carvis Durr, Mike, and Preston. Some fans say LSU is not a blue blood program like Oklahoma. Do y'all agree? I have argued for a long time LSU is a blue blood program. I mean, since 2000, LSU has more national championships than anybody not named Alabama. And that matters quite a bit, in my opinion. I think recency matters a ton.
I think LSU is a blue blood program, but it's certainly, you would not have said that because of what took place in the 90s. But just the overall history, the winning percentage, the bowls, the draft picks, and the history of the NFL, being a Southeastern Conference perennial upper third participant. But I think there was a stretch where you probably could have kicked LSU around a good bit because of what took place in the 90s. And then Nick Saban arrived and the blueprint was set. But Nick Saban came in and did what everybody thought was possible. It just took someone to get it done.
I mean, thing is with LSU is, I mean, a lot of their overall win metrics, they might not rank in the top 10 in every category. A lot of that is, okay, LSU's win percentage might be like 14th. Okay. They play in the SEC, guys. It's tough, right? LSU is 8th in overall NFL draft picks. Okay. Well, think about, I mean, if recency matters, where does LSU rank in the last 25 years in terms of NFL draft picks? I mean, my goodness. I mean, look what Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow are doing in the NFL every Sunday right now. I mean, I think if you're excluding LSU as a blue blood, it's because you're not weighting in recency enough, and you might as well just go ahead and declare Princeton a blue blood while you're at it. I just don't think that wins in the 1800s and early 1900s should weigh as much as wins and accomplishments in the last, 20, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah. Oklahoma fans get annoyed when the announcer said LSU was a blue blood.
Is that why the debate, why that's coming up? They said it on TV tonight.
Look, man, running the option with Barry Switzer and the big in the Southwest Conference and all that is one thing, but Nebraska. I mean, look, there was some epic games back then, but who's done more in this century? There's no doubt who that is.
Yep. By the way, is that 3 straight LSU's won over Oklahoma? Because 03.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, 03, 19, and tonight. In fact,
all right,
LSU,
everybody.
3-1 against Oklahoma now.
Hit that like button if you enjoyed the show. BK's Presser is up on our YouTube channel. Preston went to the Oklahoma locker room and got that, so that's also up. Was he any good, by the way?
He was interesting. Like? Yeah. Let me tell you what was interesting. The Oklahoma media were really pressing him. Sometimes bordering disrespectful how they were getting on him in terms of talking about how the program underachieved and they weren't, how do you get it back and all that kind of stuff. It's a little contentious. I just let the Oklahoma media have it because this is their last chance to get him for a while.
Let me ask you this, Preston, and some of you in the chat might know this. In retrospect, when you look at the strength of schedule of SEC teams, we know Oklahoma got hosed, right?
In terms this season?
But now that the season's complete, the regular season, where would LSU's strength of schedule in the SEC be? I mean,
Pretty
Brian
decent.
was talking about it. They didn't get Mississippi State. They didn't get Auburn. You looked at Vanderbilt in the preseason. You thought that was one. Vanderbilt That's the best team in the history of Vanderbilt.
Well, and you talk about it. LSU avoided the bottom 3 SEC teams this year. So I guess Oklahoma's
South Carolina,
probably.
look at them.
South Carolina's pretty good. LSU did get a tough draw this year.
Didn't get Kentucky.
I don't know if it's the toughest draw. I still want to say Florida probably had a tougher draw on their schedule.
Florida's strength worse.
Vanderbilt, by the way, had a disgusting draw. You talking about Vanderbilt being a 6-6 football team? Go look at that schedule. That's not a 6-6 football team.
By the way, I fully suspect next year when LSU goes to Oklahoma, they're going to be a different football team. That's going to be a much tougher game next year.
They were, Brent Venables was talking, just like BK was talking a big game. Brent Venables was saying, we have a plan. We are expecting things, and we're going to be aggressive once that portal gets open. And we're going to be aggressive with our recruiting class. So,
I think he's right. So,
somebody says American Patriots said their strength of schedule is 3rd, and I believe it. That was a rough schedule that OU had this year.
Yeah, and they had, someone posted they had a lot of injuries.
Well, someone also was talking about how Texas had a very weak schedule in the SEC, and of course, Texas is the one team that's 11-1 in the SEC. Is that going to be a trend with this new 16-team conference and making the conference champions? Is it going to be just reflective of, okay, who was the good team with the easiest schedule? Because a weak SEC schedule slate could be vastly different from a strong SEC schedule slate, just on how you roll the die.
Does the Big Ten suspend the numerous Ohio State players who threw punches in the fight today and missed the play? Well, I want to see the Zapruder breakdown on that. Michigan wanted to plant the flag at midfield. There was pepper spray used. It's going to be very interesting about how that is there more Michigan players that get suspended than Ohio State.
Reason number 5.
But that just goes to show you right there, Michigan. If Ohio State is legit a top 3 in the country football team, and Michigan should have been blown off the field in Columbus today.
Sure.
That is another one of what I was saying when we opened the show about the college football landscape. That your top 10 teams, this is the worst top 10 of teams in my lifetime. Who is the complete football team, Preston?
I mean, the best argument's Oregon, who's 12-0, but even they've had patches where they haven't looked great. But yeah, that's your one team you can really make the argument for. I mean, who's going to be number 2 after this week? Because it's not Ohio State anymore. I'm trying to think who will be number 2. Is it Notre Dame? I don't know. All of the teams who have lost a game had a game where they looked atrocious this year. So
yeah, I mean, Syracuse beats Miami. Does Miami? I don't know that Miami drops out of the top 10. Do they? They're going to be right there.
Yeah. Well, if this is the future of college football, where the best teams are more close to the bottom teams, I tell you what, the argument of 2019 LSU being the greatest team of all time is going to be pretty solid in stone. Because I think Burrow and company would run through everybody, as Saban likes to say. They'd run through them all like shit through a tin door or whatever, tin can.
Man, Preston, any SEC team that won a national championship would do that.
Yeah. Yeah. The playing field has been evened, and Saban's retirement, of course, compounds onto that.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Go to TigerBait.com and subscribe. And by the way, you can see it on the front page. You can give TigerBait is a great Christmas gift. We've got a digital gift card. Give the LSU fan in your life a TigerBait subscription for a year, and or give yourself one for Christmas. But thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button, and we've got Brian Lazar's instant analysis is already up on TigerBait. Preston's game story, all the pressers, and we'll be at the PMAC tomorrow. Again, Tuesday night for the men's team, Florida State, and football recruiting is about to kick into gear this week. And signing class, transfer portal, it's going to be crazy on TigerBait. We'll be covering all for you. All right. Thanks, Preston. And thanks to all you that was super chats and participating. And you got a show Monday night, right?
Yep. I believe LSU plays on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll do our regularly scheduled Monday night at 8 p.m. See y'all there. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for following. My decade of covering LSU in Tiger Stadium comes to an end tonight. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Good night, everybody.